What's up guys, Houndish here, and today I wanted to jump in and take a look at the Huckleberry, the new exotic SMG that's come inside of the Warmind DLC for Destiny 2. So this is a really cool weapon, we'll talk about it in just a moment. Firstly though, I do want to say a big thanks to my pal Jonathan for letting me jump on his account to try this weapon out. It's really super appreciated. So far in the DLC, I've had 2 exotics and they were both the Kepri's whatever it is for the Titan. So it's really cool to be able to try this weapon, I really appreciate it. But anyway, let's jump in and take a look at the Huckleberry SMG in Destiny 2. So here is the base weapon right here, of course. Really cool looking thing. It is a Mechanica weapon. I should also mention that you can get an exotic ornament for this thing called the Devil's Work. Pretty cool looking exotic ornament as well. But before I talk any more about perks and all of that kind of stuff, the Huckleberry is a random drop exotic. So it's not a quest exotic. It will come from exotic engrams. It can come from milestones. Might have it, all of that kind of stuff. So it's completely random as to whether you'll get this weapon. We should definitely talk about the perks though. So it has Ride the Bull. This is the intrinsic perk. Increased rate of fire and recoil while you're holding down the trigger, and kills with this weapon will reload a portion of the magazine. So it's a neat intrinsic perk, I'll talk more about it in a moment. But the SMG also has Fluted Barrel for greatly increased handling speed and slightly increased stability. We've got ricochet rounds, increased stability and increased range. Rampage, kills with the weapon temporarily grant increased damage up to 3 times. And then we have short action stock. The weapon is especially easy to grip and greatly increases the handling speed. I should also mention that this is a 750 RPM SMG, so it's a completely new, unique archetype. So it's actually in the aggressive frame class for SMGs. There are a couple of legendaries that have come in this DLC in this class as well, but they sit between the anti-OP archetype, the 600 round per minute ones, and then of course the 900 round per minute ones, which is things like the Hero's Burden. So pretty interesting kind of middle of the road. In terms of how this weapon does though, I actually think it's a fairly solid archetype for PvE from having used it a little bit. The main things to note with this exotic bonus though is that the rate of fire does ramp up while you're holding down the trigger, and you can see that it is refunding some ammo to the magazine directly right there, and you can actually go around and make a bunch of kills without even reloading the weapon. It's pretty generous. I'm not sure what the actual percentage is, but overall it is pretty effective, and it kind of has a bit of that risk runner vibe to it when you're using the weapon. Of course this is a kinetic SMG. I actually feel like this is probably going to be one of the top PvE SMGs that folks are going to use, but with it ramping up the rate of fire and then of course it activating Rampage, which stacks up to 3 times, you'll also find that this thing can put out a ton of damage in PvE. This is also partly because of the SMG buff that we saw back in March. SMGs are actually pretty solid in PvE content, and so stacking increased rate of fire on this weapon, of course bear in mind that when the rate of fire increases, the impact actually stays the same, so it fires faster but it does the same amount of base damage, so the DPS increase is somewhat significant, but that on top of Rampage is going to be really solid. You will definitely notice that recoil though, it does drift quite a bit, so a kinetic counterbalance mod won't go amiss on this thing. Either way, like I said, I feel like this is going to be one of the top SMGs for PvE content going forward. Inside of the Crucible though, how does this weapon do? Well, it's okay. It's not as solid as something like the anti-OP. That's really good at longer range, you know, it's got good range itself, has good stability and accuracy. Then of course you have the much faster firing SMGs, and they're pretty effective because despite the fact they have a lot of recoil, they are very, very lethal. And I don't think that this SMG kind of sits up there in terms of PvP. That isn't me saying it's terrible though, because it absolutely isn't. It is a pretty solid, very close range SMG. And of course you can take advantage of the intrinsic perk in the Crucible as well. So I think this could make for some pretty interesting plays. You'll have to get used to that recoil a little bit. It's not a very long range SMG, so that's another factor. But if you can kind of get used to the handling on the weapon, then there's no reason that you can't do well with it. However, I do feel like this will see a fair bit of use inside of PvE as far as SMGs go. There is also the exotic Catalyst. We don't know what that does yet, so that could turn out to be pretty awesome. Overall, I think this is a valid addition to the exotic arsenal in Destiny 2. Really cool SMG, obviously really cool visuals as well. Also, the reload animation on this thing, if you haven't noticed, is really, really neat. So those are my thoughts on the Huckleberry SMG, guys. Let me know down below if you're grinding for this weapon or if you've managed to pick it up yet. If you have enjoyed the video, a like is very much appreciated below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see more Destiny 2 content. For now though, whatever you guys get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.